The Holy Gospel according to St. Matthew, the 5th chapter, and this reading is found on page 880 in your Pew Bible. Just a word of warning, we're only going to be reading through verse 26 because that's what I really want to hone in on this morning. Jesus said to the disciples, "You have heard that it was said to those of ancient times, 'You shall not murder.' And whoever murders shall be liable to judgment. But I say to you that if you are angry with a brother or sister, you will be liable to judgment. And if you insult a brother or sister, you will be liable to the council. And if you say, 'You fool,' you will be liable to the hell of fire." That's pretty tough, wasn't it? But here comes what Jesus has set you up for. So, when you are offering your gift at the altar, if you remember that your brother or sister has something against you, leave your gift there before the altar and go. First, be reconciled to your brother or sister, and then come and offer your gift. Come to terms quickly with your accuser while you are on the way to court with him. Or your accuser may hand you over to the judge, and the judge to the guard, and you will be thrown into prison. Truly, I tell you, you will never get out until you have paid the last penny. This is the gospel of the Lord. Please be seated. I don't know, don't be too quick to say thanks be to God for that, because what Jesus is saying is that the commandments are all about external actions, controlling those, modeling and directing those, but that He has come to model and direct our inner thoughts and motives, our heart and soul. And that's another matter altogether. We're talking about Epiphany refractions during this season of Epiphany, and the light of Christ hits our faith as a prism, and off comes all the different colors of the spectrum. The color that is sent off in the gospel text today is called reconciliation. We are a people about reconciliation. How important is doing reconciliation? It's important enough that Jesus just said in the text that if you're bringing your gift to God's altar and there's something unresolved between you and another person, drop it and go and work to resolve the problem. Once you've resolved it, then come back, pick up your gift, and give it to the Lord. It's more important than your gift. That's incredible. That your gift to the Lord, be it time, talents, finances, don't mean a thing if it ain't got that swing. Who said that? Duke Ellington? Somebody like that. If it isn't accompanied by a spirit of reconciliation, making it right with those that you've had differences with, then God doesn't want your gift. It's not wrapped in the right wrapping paper. That's how important it is. How important is it? Just a little bit earlier in this gospel, Jesus does the Beatitudes. Blessed are the poor in heart, blessed are those who mourn, and they will be comforted. But the one that sort of stands out is the one about the peacemakers. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called the children of God. That's different from the rest of the Beatitudes. They shall be called the children of God. When you become a reconciling agent in your life and in our world, you start to look like Jesus Christ, you become the children of God. Now, that's not what the church always does. It's not easy to be a reconciling agent. When I was 15 or 16, the church I was a member at with my family, they were doing I don't know that there's anyone here old enough to remember these days. They were doing a neighborhood canvas. Does anyone remember that? Okay, so we have a handful of folks who remember back that far with me. Okay. Somehow Lutherans gave that up a long time ago. I don't know why, because it's kind of good to get out there. But I was only a teenager, and my church was doing a neighborhood canvas, and the whole purpose of a canvas is to go door to door, knock on the door, and it's what salespeople call cold call. You're doing a cold call. Basically, you knock and say, "Hi, I'm so-and-so from such and such, and we're just checking the neighborhood to see if there are those who are not churched, if you'd like to come to our church." And so here stands this little 15-year-old, and a crabby man came to the door. And I said, "Hi, I'm Barry Ludwig, and I'm from Evergreen Lutheran Church, and we're canvassing the neighborhood to see if there are those who don't have a church home yet, and if you don't, we'd like to invite you to Evergreen." Whew. And he looked at me and he said, "My neighbors go to your church. And in the summertime, when the screens are open, the doors are open, all I hear them doing is yelling, arguing, and cussing. I don't think I want to be a part of your God." Those were his words. I'll never forget it. I don't think I really want to be a part of your God. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called the children of God. If you're bringing your gift to the altar, drop it. Wherever you are, just drop it. Don't approach the altar with it unless you've done the work of reconciliation in your life. Why does Jesus put so much emphasis upon a reconciling spirit, a reconciling church, where everyone is welcome, where there is no shame or guilt, sins are forgiven from a gracious God? Why is this so important that we look that way and act that way and be that way? Because this is how the world will see God, through us. Jesus is keenly aware of this, that once he has gone, once he has ascended into heaven, the world is going to hear the good news, but the way in which they're going to measure it, the way they're going to measure its authenticity, is through the lifestyles, and attitudes of those who claim to follow Christ. They will see God through you. How are you doing with that? This is really important. It is as important as Jesus including it in the prayer that he taught his disciples. We call it the Lord's Prayer. Forgive us our sins, what? As we forgive the sins of others, those who sin against us. In other words, every time you're praying that prayer, you're saying to God, if I haven't forgiven someone, don't forgive me. That's what you're saying. You do know that, don't you? Doesn't that tweak you a little bit? When I'm saying the Lord's Prayer, usually I say it every morning, every evening, and then 3 times on Sunday morning. I get to that point and my mind immediately says, are you holding any grudges? The Merriam-Webster dictionary defines reconciliation this way: the act of causing 2 people or groups to become friendly again after an argument or disagreement. But the second definition is really the one that I kind of prefer because it goes even deeper than that. The process of finding a way to make two different ideas exist together at the same time. And my friends, that's called marriage. Reconciliation needs to be a part of our everyday life, allowing two ideas, two different perspectives or more to cohabitate together, to live together without rancor or judgment or a sense of superiority. That's hard work. That is not easy to do. That word that is used for reconciliation in the Greek of the New Testament text there literally means to make peace, to be a peacemaker. Sounds like the Beatitudes again, doesn't it? Blessed are the peacemakers. That takes focus. It takes letting the Holy Spirit crack through our hard exterior and open us up to vulnerable situations. It really means not acting instinctively, but acting in a focused, Christ-like way, acting and reacting. About 6 years ago, I was on my way back to Zion, Ann Arbor from Zion, Chelsea, coming back from a pastor's conference. To get back to Ann Arbor, I had to go down a 2-lane blacktop called Scio Church Road. And where you come out onto it from Zion, Chelsea, to turn right to go to Ann Arbor, there's a hill to the left, and you really can't see traffic coming over it. And so when you get out onto Scio Church from that intersection, you do it quickly because someone could be flying over the hill. And so I came to a stop, I looked, no cars in any direction. Thought, great, got out onto Scio Church, hit it, and all of a sudden someone was practically on my rear bumper, honking their horn, flashing their lights, and very angry at me because apparently I had cut them off. Now, in my defense, they had to be doing 150 miles an hour coming over that hill for that to happen. Well, okay, I'm getting defensive now. But anyway, I had unintentionally cut them off. And this fellow, and I looked in my rearview mirror, and it was a younger male man with one of these pullover stocking caps pulled down to over his ears and the top of his head, and all I really could see was his eyes and nose in the mirror. But he was right on my tail, honking, flashing his lights, very angry. When maybe a mile, nobody came the other direction, so he pulled alongside, and he did one of these, which meant, least obviously to me, stop. So I stopped the car. Here we are, 2 cars side by side in the middle of a 2-lane blacktop country road. So I stopped the car, and I am fuming. I didn't deserve to be treated like that. I am madder than you know what. And if you've grown to know me, you know that I have a lot of pent-up energy. And so I'm ready to let him have it. You can't imagine the vocabulary that is being formed in the front of my brain. Rolled down my window. He rolled down the driver's side window on his car, and he's mad and angry at me, and his hand is coming up, and he's going to give me some sign language. I can see it coming. And just before the first insult came out of my mouth, guess what the Holy Spirit popped into my head? Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called children of God. And then I thought to myself, what does that mean? What are the non-peacemakers called? And before the insult could come out of my mouth, just as he's getting ready to flip me, I looked at him and I said, I'm really sorry, man. I didn't see it coming. My fault. I really apologize. And just as he's getting ready to give me the sign and say something, his hand fell down, his whole countenance changed, and he said, "Oh, that's okay, man, it happens. Sorry about this back of your bumper thing." I said, "I'm really sorry about that." And he said, No, we all have bad days. You have a good day, man. Just take care of yourself." And he waved at me and then took a left and took off. All this just really in a matter of seconds. And I was embarrassed at my own inner need to get angry back, but thankful to a God who hadn't quit on me, who hadn't given up. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called the children of God. If you're bringing your gift to the altar and you have something unresolved with another person, put it down. Don't come forward. Your gift is not holy until you do what is the best gift for God and the most important thing, and you reconcile with the person you're holding a grudge against or who is holding a grudge against you. That's who we are. That's how we shine the light of Christ on the world. That's how people, when a 15-year-old knocks on their door and says, "If you're not a member of a church, we'd love to have you come to Hope Lutheran Church on Sunday morning." That's when that person says, "Yeah, that's where my neighbors go. And they are really nice, caring, compassionate people. I'd like to know more about that God." We are a reconciling people. And if we're not, then we are not God's people. That sounds like a harsh judgment, I know, but that's what Jesus is basically saying. And while it is not easy to do, we have a model. It's Jesus himself. And Paul says this about Jesus in Philippians chapter 2. "Though he was in the form of God, he did not count equality with God something to be used on his own behalf. But he poured himself out, taking the form of a slave, born in human likeness, and found in our human form, he humbled himself and became obedient to the point of death, even death on a cross." See, that's the formula. And lived out by Jesus and us who follow him, who give thanks to the Father for having sent his only begotten Son to die for us. We follow this 3-point formula: forgive, ask, and pray. Forgive others. I love that text in Jeremiah 31 where God says, "I will forgive their iniquity and remember their sin no more." He's talking about us. Forgive. This is hard to do, but it's the critical step. Not some superficial forgiveness, where you say, "Oh yeah, okay, well, I've forgiven him." But you really haven't. You really haven't. It's the true and pure letting go. Letting go of the grudge, letting go of the anger and the hostility. It's the rolling down the window and saying, "I'm sorry, my fault. My fault." Forgive. And then once having done it, quit bringing it up. Quit bringing it up. You heard the story of the two guys who went to a Red Wing hockey game downtown Detroit, and it went into like double overtime and then into, the playoff shot. And they got home really late. And the one guy was being dropped off by the other. And he said, "I'm in real trouble, man. This is the third time I've done this in 3 weeks, gotten home really late. My wife's going to get historical." And he said, "You mean hysterical?" He said, "No, historical." She's going to remind me of every time I've done this to her. And that, by the way, could be flipped the other way with husband and wife. Let it go. Forgive. Let it go. Ask for forgiveness. We are so proud. When we do stuff that is bad, when we say something that is hurtful or naughty, we just hope we can sort of get past the next couple days. And then if we don't hear anything about it, then somehow we've survived our own mean-spiritedness, and then we just move on. But you haven't. Because when forgiveness is not asked for, when it is not given, healing doesn't take place. It just piles up like on a dairy farm. So ask for forgiveness. I taught my daughters never to say, "I'm sorry." Because I just think that's too slick, too quick, too easy. "Oh, I'm sorry." "Oh, did I say that? I'm sorry." "Did I do that again? Well, I'm sorry." It's just too easy. So in our house, the kids growing up, we asked each other for forgiveness. And I can't count on my fingers and toes the number of times I went to my daughters and said, "Will you forgive me?" Because when you ask for forgiveness, you really do have to humble yourself. You really do. And then you give a gift to the other person. You give the other person an opportunity to be Christ-like, to exercise peacemaking, and to forgive you. What a great gift, especially to give someone whose feelings you may have hurt. So, forgive, ask, and finally, through it all, pray. Pray for the strength of Christian character to do what Christ has called us to do. I'd like to just take a moment. I'm done talking for this Sunday. I'd like you to think of someone in your life where you have unresolved feelings, an unresolved situation, because you're going to be bringing your gift to the altar in a moment. Go and make peace with that person this man.